Hands down, might be the fastest that I've ever caught up on a long form series in ages. But I'm here to give you my thoughts and reactions to the fourth episode of Dark Matter called The Corridor right after the jump. Hello, everyone. Terrence here with Hollywood Already Did It. If you haven't already, go ahead, like, share, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, ring that bell below. Anytime we have something, you will be among the first to know. Fourth episode. Like I said, I've been burning through these bad boys. Once you got me hooked, you got me in. Now I'm kind of like, wait, got any more of them Dark Matter episodes? No. Fourth episode picks up right at the end of the last. They're good at doing a direct connect. And so what we had seen is that Jason Prime and Amanda had gone into the box, and chaos was ensuing back at the lab as Dawn lost fingers, and Layden is freaking out. He is like, what is happening? Like, that was my one person to tell me what was on the other side of this box, and I need to know what's going on. So he's pacing, freaking out. And that timer is just doing its best to get to 3 minutes, and he is struggling. Everybody's sort of doing what it is that they're supposed to be doing in this panic mode. There's people tending to Dawn to get her hand back together, but Layden is the main one, kind of just like, what am I going to do? And what he does is a bit nuts. The second that timer goes off and that box opens, he grabs a vest, grabs some vials, he runs right into the box and goes caution to the wind, and goes in there and closes the box, and gets placed in the same sort of corridor that we had last seen Jason Prime and Amanda end up in. This episode deals with a lot of with the corridor, and I feel like if you were unsure of where you stood on this series, this is going to be the episode that either makes you get on or get off the pot. Mainly because it's very sci-fi heavy. It's leaning full into sci-fi in this episode, and sign me up. But the corridor is a long, ever-expanding, non-ending corridor that has a lot of doors to it, and these doors have an endless opening to many, many, many versions of a multiverse of worlds. Some inhabitable, some not, but there's just an endless thing, and so that's kind of where we are with Jason Prime and Amanda. And Amanda is not doing well in this corridor. She is freaking out. First door that they go into, they exit the box. Things seems to be a livable world, but everything seems to have sort of been destroyed. There's ash everywhere. There's ash falling out the skies, and buildings are just starting to deconstruct. They go outside. They see buildings in the far ground start falling apart. And then the building that's pretty tall, that's not that far from in front of them, starts falling to the point where they have to run back inside of their building and then thus take sanctuary back inside the box. And so that was the first turn outside of the corridor into a box, into a new alternate world. Didn't go so well. And so they come back. Jason Prime is counting the files. How many times can we get away with doing this, to sort of do a test case? He's basically like, I need to figure out the control factor, what I can do to control where we end up. And then it's like, we got 48. We had 50. It's 48 left in there. But what is this corridor in? Like, let's stop opening doors. Let's just see what the end of the corridor is. She's thinking of this as a psychiatrist, and he's thinking of this scientifically. She's like, there's got to be a functional way to get out of this. And when there's not, she starts spiraling. I think what's interesting is that I wonder how long it took Jason Chu to sort of get to this point, and to be able to just control and decide where he is, he goes. We sort of see how he's gone, but like, he had to have some trials and errors. And so a lot of his hardened exterior may have to do because he has gone through the uninhabitable places, the places that didn't go as well, before he could realize what that control was. Or maybe he had the control right out the gate. I don't think that's the case. In our Prime world, Daniela Prime is mourning Max. So we do learn that Max and Charlie were born together, and Max subsequently died a few years after he was born. Maybe it looks like by pictures and by what we're getting, maybe made about 4 or 5. I can't. We get a story later, and I think that's about where they put him. But she sort of has a totem that represents him on the counter. So Jason 2 takes Charlie out to driving, and it's a very different experience than when he was going with his true father, Jason Prime. Jason 2 is a lot more aggressive, and it's like, push it. It's a yellow light, floor it. Let's go for it. Charlie's like, well, hold on. You always told me to be passive and like kind of like be cautionary. It's like, now we ain't got time for all that. And so both, I think, the world of probably trying these controls and trying to see through the corridor which one is the correct plot. But I also think just because you are a genius and you came up with this, you think a lot higher of yourself than anything else. And you don't, there's nothing that you can really say that says no to you. So he is living this life as like, hey, I got a second chance to be with a family. I've done all the rich stuff. Cool. I'm an a-hole. Burn pedal to the metal. We're just going to get through it. So we're going to get you a new car. And it's like, wait, really? Again, using funds and means that this version of him does not have. But he comes up with a plan to get there. The biggest thing that sort of comes in this conversation with Jason Chu and Charlie, outside of the card piece and the sort of difference, seeing some more hints that this father is not the same as the other father. Max is brought up, and he asks sort of what we're doing, what we're planning to do for Max. And at that point, he's like, he kind of throws Max away a little bit. It's like, yeah, we'll do something, sort of unspoken, but this is your day. This is your day. And so he's kind of trying to put that on him, something that Charlie isn't really ready to receive. What Jason Prime and Amanda sort of deduce is that the box is in the same place throughout all the timelines. Like it's in the exact same location based on their GPS. So the coordinates are the same no matter where, whenever they get out the box, it's the same. It's just in a very different world. And so um, Jason is actively trying to see what it is that decides why the worlds are the way they are when they open up the door. He's not trying, he's not really getting a hold of it. So we get another shot of kind of seeing Amanda being more and more distraught with how long this corridor is. Like, why can't we just run through it? Like, let's just keep going. She goes for a little bit and gets separated enough that you can no longer hear Jason Prime, and then he comes up to her and is like, "You got to stop doing this. Like, what are you doing?" But she is just losing it. We also see a shot of Leighton sort of having the same situation. Like he's not figuring out how to get out of this. He doesn't know what to do. Jason too attends another day of teaching and is just fed up. He quits. He quit after failing half the class because they have tablets and notebooks. He quits. And it is it's going to come up, but it's very different when in Jason Chu's world, it was just him for the majority of his life. He did not gain a man until late, but he had done most of his successes on his own. And so he is now operating in this world and making decisions in this world without the idea of having to do it with a partner, with Daniela. As much as he wants Daniela, he wants to love Daniela, he doesn't understand the concept of, hey, we are a team and I'm just going to just go do willy nilly. So outright quitting your tenured, I would assume you'd be tenured at this point, but outright quitting your teaching job is a big, big step that should have probably had a conversation beforehand. But he's just walking out there like, no, kick rocks, I'm out. And sort of sets him on this path of what he wants to do for the rest of the episode and what he wants to do for money going forward. He is very much a thinker of, hey, I have the brains and I have this machine that I've created to do at will what I want. So I'm going to use it. I don't have to ask questions or get anybody's permission to do so. After another freak out, and basically Jason's opening up doors, and one of the doors is an atmosphere that just isn't uninhabitable. It starts sucking them up. They can't get the oxygen. They quickly are able to close the door, but it just freaks Leighton out even more. And it's at that point that once Jason catches up, is like, look, this is endless. There are multitude of possibilities, and we are all throughout this. There's different versions of us all throughout this thing. He verbally says, there's a version of us somewhere down here where you and I did not make it out. After you tried to save me, we didn't. We failed. There's a version somewhere of that. It's an endless amount of possibilities. So I don't know if that really calms her down so much because like I said, she's thinking of everything in a tangible, practical way, where he's thinking of science and like figures and all this stuff. It's much more digestible for him than it is for her. To that point, that Jason's like, we need to get some food and water. We've been in here for long enough that we need to find sustenance, or we're not going to make it. So they open up a door. And the door looks very reminiscent to the lab that they left in the first place, which is a clue number one. We don't quite get there, but we get there as the episode goes. But and then we actually see a version of Jason Prime and Amanda, a version of them in this world that do fail. They get caught by Leighton and Dawn right when they're about to enter the box, try to get into the box, and then Dawn shoots Amanda in the head, and like, Amanda sees it. That version of Leighton sees them. So I have a feeling there's going to be another Leighton going through this corridor somewhere down the line, because he's going to follow behind her. But they quickly get back in the box, close it up, and then that's that. And it doesn't really dawn on either of them that, hey, I just said this. Not yet. It will though. It'll come up in a bit. Seeing her get shot in the head, seeing a version of Amanda get shot in the head, has our Amanda 2, pretty distraught. And it's like, well, they just killed me. And Jason's like, no, they killed a version of you. If they killed you, you would not be standing here right this moment. And Jason's kind of just like, you're thinking of this too logically, but we need to just take a moment to understand how these doors work. I need to get to the trick of it, which we've seen in Jason 2 has mastered it. He knows when and where he's going and how he's getting there. Amanda doesn't want to hear any of that. She's like, no, F all of that. I'm getting the hell up out of this corridor. Like, I am done being in this corridor. She just opens up a door to a massive place with a snowstorm and just books it out of there, to the point where Jason Prime has to go follow her. And he gets to a point where he saves her. She passes out, basically pre-start of hypothermia. But he can't find the box. Like, the box, it's just, you can't, visibility is not existing. Snow is all over the place. He can't see where, so he just tries to take her to safety. He finds a building, a home that's sort of buried a little bit under the snow. He breaks in and he gets her to be a little bit more warmer, so that they can wait out the storm to see they can make their way back afterwards. Jason 2 goes to visit Leighton in the prime reality. And he's a very different person. He's a party man. Still tons of money. He's like the rich kid who can invest in and do whatever he wants. His father comes from money. His father is still alive in this reality, and he just has money out the wazoo. He's living lavishly. He's wearing nice robes. There's drugs, liquor. Like, he is the man of the town, man of the people. And Jason 2 goes to tell him, like, hey, I got a business proposition for you. He tells him, like, hey, I just quit my job. And mind you, in this world, Jason Prime has not seen Leighton in college. Like, they have gone their separate ways. So they are not as close as Leighton and Jason 2 are in their timeline. But Jason's trying to say, hey, let's start a business. Let's do a business. And Leighton's like, I've spent enough money on old friends in business. Ryan came to me about 3 months ago to ask for an investment, and I gave it to him. I'm not doing that again. So we learned there that Ryan Prime got some of his money investments through Leighton. And to that point, that Jason 2 is kind of like, I want to stop talking. Let me show you something. And so he takes him off to show him the location of one of the boxes. Jason Prime wakes up after the snowstorm to see, just a check of the land. He steps out, and it's a Chicago under snow, completely blizzard out. Ice is frozen over. It looks like, if anybody has seen Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, that's what it looks like. It's completely frozen. And he can't find the box. Wherever the box is behind them, there's no location for it. So they're stranded. Jason Prime goes back to Amanda to tell her that we're stranded, and Amanda sort of not freaks out, but she kind of is like, it's my fault. Like, I tell my patients all the time to be calm, and I could not be calm in the moment. I was just freaking out, stressed out, and it reminded me of a time when I was young and we were driving through a snowstorm. I just felt very tough, and like the world was gone, and that there was no end in sight. And that sort of clicks into Jason's head. It's like, hey, hold on. Did you have that thought right before you touched and opened the door? And she's like, Yeah, I did. And he starts getting his wheels turning. And I immediately am like, well, he mentioned the previous, like, what if there's a version of us out there that didn't make it out right before he touched the door? So that when my brain clicks and then their brain clicks too together that says, wait a minute, doors in the corridor are random, but what if we can choose the world? Like, what if we can decide what's on the other side of that? Similar, kind of similar to like, I'm going to use another Ghostbusters reference, the original Ghostbusters, like clear your brain. And whatever your first thought is, that's going to be the challenger that comes to you. He chose Big Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. And here, whatever they sort of think of right before they touch the door sort of gives them the sense of what that world is going to be when they enter on the other side. So the world sort of are a reflection of their emotional state at the moment that they touch. Oh, sign. I like this. I like this a lot. And so the controls are them. They are the controls. So they can decide what happens. Now that they know that, cool. Now they just need to get back to a box, which they don't have access to. But this at least does. They've gone now from being sort of apathetic to like, well, this is a lot of our life. Like, oh, we now know how to control it. Let's get back to that box. Jason 2 takes Leighton Prime to the box and shows him, uh, takes him inside, gives him some drugs, and takes him inside. Mind you, this is all happening while Daniela Prime and Charlie Prime are mourning Max. Like they're having their thing. So their version, the dad's not there. Uh, but Jason 2's telling Leighton, like, hey, don't touch anything because he's about to go out one of the doors. Like, no, don't touch anything. When you do this, I need your brain to be clear. Because it sounds like if there are two people and one of them is not clear and the other, like there's a loss, it's not complete control. There's two controls happening at once. So he's like, clear your brain and I will sort of take us on this path in this world. I can control where we're going. But he's saying like, let's use this. You put your money into this. Let's use this so that we don't have to work a day in our life. Like we can use this to our benefit to make money and be essentially gods, if you will. It's like, but what if I showed you a multitude of options and you got to play in the road not chosen? Would you take that? And clearly, based on how the Laytons in other timelines react to the box and the thought of it, he's going to be like, yeah, I'll take that in a heartbeat. And so um, Jason too is trying to sort of create the bond that he had with his Layton over 10 years relatively quickly. Like I'm speeding up the process. I've got the box done. I need you. Let's do this together. And we'll see how if a abridged version of the relationship is as strong as the version that existed in the timeline two for the purpose of the show. Jason, Prime, and Amanda find the box after a little bit of snow digging. I don't quite know, like they find it, stick it, and then all of a sudden are inside. I don't quite know how they didn't seem to have the tools enough to get up under the box enough with all the snow that was around to actually then be able to get inside. But cool, I'll buy it because we got to continue the story. Once inside, we sort of see a back and forth between Daniela Prime and Charlie Prime having their ceremony, and Daniela telling a story about Max, and then Jason Prime having his own sort of celebration with Amanda and telling the same sort of story, just in a different order. But basically, the story is same being told the same about what happened to Max. And Max was born with an irregular heartbeat and had to have multiple surgeries. By the time the third surgery came, his body just gave out. Charlie still misses him. He hides a lot of it, but he that is sort of his embodiment and who he is. It's just with him. After the story, Amanda and Jason Prime become a little closer because Jason Prime's trying to understand her Jason. Like, you tell me a little bit about him. It's like, yeah, there's some similarities. Like I see some things in you that occur that remind me of him. But he has a much harder edge. Um, he's the most driven human being I know. He has not let work or he's not let love life or family or anything come in the way of his goal. Um, And Jason Prime is kind of ask her like, why did you? He did this to me. And she's like, wait, what? And she's like, he's the one responsible for putting me here. Like, he is the one who set this all into motion. Do you have any idea why he chose my timeline when there's so many timelines he could go to? Why is mine the one that he went to sort of take me out of? And also, why didn't he just kill me? And she's like, well, she's like, if I'm thinking of who Jason 2 is, I don't think he wanted to harm you. I think he thought that he was giving you a second chance at life. Like, you chose a family, so he's giving you the opportunity to go be rich and have finances. Whereas he did not have that chance, and now he's taking that opportunity. And he's like, well, what does he want from me that he didn't have? He can do whatever. And it's at that point that Amanda says, in your world, you have a Daniela. And you can see the gut wrenching thing that sort of happens in his brain, because it's the first time that I think he honestly thought he had no idea what was going on. And now he's thinking like, oh, this stranger, this man is going to go wed my wife, like bed my wife, go sleep with my wife, go be with my wife, love her, kiss on her, and be a father to my son. Like, that is what he's going to do. And now I think the drive for him to get out of that corridor and get back to him is going to be even stronger. Jason 2 comes back out of the box with Layton, and Layton is just very confused as to why. He's amazed by what he saw. He's like, that was phenomenal, but I don't know why you chose me to be the person that you show this to. Like, why am I the person? It's at that point that Jason 2 tells him, in my world, you and I are thick as thieves. And I want to build that bridge because I trust you implicitly there. And I feel like if I opened up your brain here to the possibilities, you and I will get on that level here. And I am like, I'm done with work. I'm done with doing the day to day stuff that this Jason was doing. So I need to be able to do what I want to do as far as loving the family, doing the family aspect, but I still need that money to come in. I think the two of us can be beneficial factors to make that happen. Back home, Daniela and Charlie are sort of talking and making dinner. Obviously, neither Jason showed up to their ceremony for Max, so that's a little off the wall from normal. But Charlie just straight up asked Mom's like, hey, Dad's different. Do you know what's going on? Is something going on with that? And she's like, well, what do you mean? It's like, something's off. Um, he just doesn't seem quite like he normally does. Then he arrives. He's standing there like weirdo coming out the shadows. And he's got flowers, some champagne, and a key. He keys to a brand new car for Charlie. Charlie's decided through the moon. So whatever thought he had about his dad being off doesn't matter anymore. He got a new car. Daniela at this point is pretty pissed because, like I said earlier, you made a decision to quit your job, which he tells her in this moment. You made a decision to buy a car. You're spending money and doing things that we don't have without having a conversation with the person that you're supposed to be in partnership with. You're still operating here as if you were solo in your timeline. And so it's just like, what? She straight up cousin, like, what the hell are you doing? What the F are you doing? Um, it's at that point that he's like, I want you to quit your job, go back to painting. She's like, what are you talking about? It's like, look, I quit and I found a way for us to make money. I've got a benefactor, I've got a program, I've got a thing. We're going to be good. We've got the money. And I thought for a moment, I thought she was going to be like, hey, we're not in partnership here. But then he throws a line like, you are in a place where you no longer have to worry about money. So if she can go back to achieving some of her art, I think she's going to do that. It seems like what's happening is that Jason 2 is trying to create his world and merge it with this timeline. And so, hey, I've got the genius, I got the brains, I've got the money, all there. I need to bring that over here and then allow us with Charlie to go ahead and live our lives affluently. Like, you can go back to painting, you can do what you want. I will back it up. Like, he's trying to get the best of both worlds. And I don't know if that's something that's even feasible or tangible. Uh, based on all the things that have sort of occurred in that Jason's lifetime before the new one arrived. And then the last thing we forget that Leighton is still just roaming around. We just go back to a shot of Leighton from the two alternate. We go back to a shot of Leighton from the timeline two, and he's still in that corridor, walking through and looking in a bad way. Um, he opens up a door, uninhabitable again. He just seems to have been going through that cycle. And I think because he does not operate in the same brain capacity that Jason did, I don't know if he's ever going to really be able to get out of there without help. And I also think there's going to be another Leighton. I think there's going to be a world where there's three Leighton running around in that corridor. Well, the one from two, the one from one Prime now, who knows what he's going. He knows how the control works, and then the one from whatever timeline saw Amanda when she saw Amanda getting shot. So yeah, it's a vicious loop that Leighton sort of has ended up with the impatience of being in there, but this was a really good, super heavy sci-fi episode. I love this show who quickly told us how things work, as opposed to like letting this be the black box that goes all the way to the end of the season. It's like, nope, here's how this works. This is what this is. This is where we're going. And now I think we're going to get to a point where Jason Prime he realizes what Jason Chu is doing, and now he has to go back to sort of undo that. I think his best thought of doing that, though, is to probably go back to his world, use his money, and sort of build a team there, as opposed to trying to go directly to Prime. Because I think having two Jasons at the same time could cause some issues, and then it's going to be I don't trust people, and I don't want to break people's brains type of thing. But yeah, I am. It's very rare that you can get me to do something passionate and talk about a show that's I'm passionate about, and not have to look at my notes much because I'm just I'm fully invested in it. Well, what did you guys think about the fourth episode of Dark Matter called The Corridor? Go ahead and leave your thoughts and comments in the comments below. If you haven't already, you can follow us on Twitter at HollywoodADI. You can hit us up on email at HollywoodAlreadyDidIt@gmail.com. We also have a podcast by the same name that's on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, any other place podcasts. We're there. Like always, I got my ticket. You got yours.